Some films shock you, some offend, but a few, they hit so hard, governments stepped in, entire countries banned them, studios buried them, and in some cases, the director got arrested. This isn't about bad taste. This is about movies that pushed so far. They nearly took Hollywood down with them. Let's start with one so real. The director had to prove he didn't kill anyone. Cannibal Holocaust, 1980. Imagine making a horror film so disturbingly realistic. The police think it's a snuff movie. That's not a metaphor. That actually happened. In 1980, Italian director Ruggero Deodato released Cannibal Holocaust, a brutal found footage film about a missing documentary crew in the Amazon. What audiences saw: chaos, gore, and a realism so raw no one could tell what was fake. To sell the illusion, Deodato made his actors disappear from public life, and it worked too well. Authorities arrested him for murder. In court, in handcuffs, he had to bring the cast into the courtroom to prove they were alive. But that's not what got the film banned. What tipped the scale were the real animal killings caught on camera. A turtle, a pig, a monkey, all killed for the shot. Over 50 countries banned Cannibal Holocaust. Some still do. Critics called it savage filth, but others saw something deeper. A commentary on media, colonialism, and our appetite for violence. So what's worse, the cannibals in the jungle or the ones holding the camera? The Birth of a Nation, 1915. Some movies offend. This one revived the KKK. The Birth of a Nation wasn't just the first blockbuster. It was the blueprint for modern cinema. Huge sets, epic scores, emotional editing. Even President Woodrow Wilson praised it as history written with lightning. But underneath the cinematic genius was something vile. Black Americans portrayed as criminals. The Ku Klux Klan shown as noble saviors. And Hollywood applauded. The film caused riots, protests. It was banned in several cities, but it kept playing for years. And that same year, the KKK reformed. That's not a coincidence. Director D.W. Griffith never apologized. He made another movie, Intolerance, to defend himself. But the damage was done. The Birth of a Nation is still taught in film schools, not for its message, but for how dangerously powerful film can be when it's used to rewrite history. The Devils in 1971. Now picture this, a film so controversial, the studio that made it refuses to release it to this day. The Devils, directed by Ken Russell, is based on real events from 17th century France. Think nuns, hysteria, political corruption, and religious madness. This wasn't some slow period drama. This was full frontal blasphemy. Naked exorcisms, possessed sisters, priests burned alive. The Vatican condemned it. Religious groups exploded. Warner Brothers panicked. They cut it, then cut it again. And still, it got banned in multiple countries. To this day, the uncut version has never been officially released. The studio locked it away, like it never happened. But here's the wild part. Despite all the censorship, The Devils remains one of the most talked about films in underground circles. Because when a studio is scared of its own movie, you know it struck a nerve. That's just the opening act. You've seen cults, cannibals, and censorship, but wait until you hear about the Disney movie they erased from existence, or the gangster flick that triggered Hollywood's first moral crackdown. Keep watching, this list only gets darker. Pink Flamingos, 1972. Some movies try to shock. Pink Flamingos tried to traumatize. Directed by John Waters and starring the legendary drag icon Divine, this underground grenade didn't just cross the line, it erased it. The plot doesn't matter. The point was provocation, bestiality, cannibalism, and a final scene so revolting it's still whispered about on internet forums. Waters called it an exercise in poor taste, and the world agreed. It was banned in multiple countries. Even places that tolerated edgy cinema said, nope, too far. But here's the kicker. That's exactly what Waters wanted. He built his reputation on rebellion. He didn't just break the rules, he licked them, set them on fire, and mailed the ashes to your parents. It wasn't cinema, it was a dare. Freaks, 1932. Before Hollywood had CGI monsters, it had something way more real and way more controversial. Freaks was directed by Todd Browning, the same guy behind Dracula. But this time, he didn't want actors in makeup. He cast real circus performers, real conditions, real disabilities, and he put them front and center. The plot, a greedy trapeze artist marries a little person from the sideshow, planning to steal his fortune. But the rest of the troupe finds out and takes revenge. The chant, one of us, still chills spines nearly a century later. Audiences weren't ready. One woman claimed she miscarried after watching it. Another viewer sued. MGM panicked and slashed 30 minutes of footage, now lost forever. The film was banned in the UK for over 30 years, and Browning, his career never recovered. But decades later, Freaks was reevaluated, not as a horror film, but as a twisted tragedy, one that asked, who's really the monster? Song of the South, 1946, is one Disney movie you'll never find on Disney Plus. Not in the vault, not in hidden gems, nowhere. It's called Song of the South, and Disney has spent decades pretending it doesn't exist. Released in 1946, the film paints a picture of the American South so sugar-coated, it practically hums plantation lullabies. Set after the Civil War, it shows formerly enslaved people as joyful storytellers, living in harmony with their former masters, singing zip-a-dee-doo-dah like trauma never happened. Critics and civil rights groups slammed it as historical revisionism, a dangerous dose of nostalgia for a time that should never be romanticized. Disney stood by it for years, even re-released it. It won an Oscar for Best Song. But by the 80s, the heat became too much. Disney pulled it. No VHS, no DVD, no streaming. It's the only major Disney movie they've buried entirely. Not because it flopped, but because the lie it told was louder than the story it tried to sing. Scarface, 1932. Long before Al Pacino's cocaine-fueled rage, there was the original Scarface, and it scared Hollywood straight. Released in 1932, this gangster flick was loud, bloody, and unrepentant. Machine guns, body counts, a thinly veiled reference to Al Capone. And rumor has it, Capone loved it. Audiences were stunned. Critics were horrified. Religious groups called it a manual for criminals. Cities banned it. Censors demanded reshoots. One version even had Tony Camonte repent at the end, just to cool things down. But the damage was done. Scarface didn't just rattle the system. It helped build the Hays Code, Hollywood's ironclad morality rulebook that would dominate the industry for decades. In short, this film made Hollywood clean up its act, because for a moment it looked like the movies were teaching people how to kill. Next up, a movie so chaotic it sparked real violence in the streets, and a quiet little cowboy film that somehow won an Oscar with an X rating. Stay locked in. The Warriors, 1979. This wasn't just a movie. It was a gang war waiting to happen. The Warriors followed a street gang trying to make it home across hostile New York turf, all in one wild, neon-lit night. Stylish, gritty, fast. But when it hit theaters, something strange happened. Audiences got too into it. Fights broke out. Theaters became battlegrounds. In some cities, people got seriously hurt, and a few didn't walk away. Paramount freaked. They pulled all the ads, yanked the posters, and let theaters cancel screenings altogether. The movie wasn't banned officially, but it was treated like a public threat. And for a brief moment, the Warriors felt like a spark that might set the whole country off. Was it glamorizing gang life, or just holding a mirror up to the chaos outside? Either way, the message was clear. Fiction doesn't always stay on the screen. Midnight Cowboy, 1969. When people say Oscar winner, they don't usually mean this. Midnight Cowboy is the only X-rated film in history to win Best Picture. Let that sink in. This wasn't just another prestige drama. It followed a naive Texan who moves to New York to become a male escort, and his unlikely friendship with a sickly con man. It was raw, sad, gritty, and brutally honest about sex, poverty, and loneliness. Censors gave it an X. Some theaters refused to play it, even critics were split. Some hailed it, others walked out. But the Academy? They gave it the top prize. That win changed everything. It told filmmakers, you don't have to play it safe to make something great. And sometimes, the dirtiest stories win the cleanest awards. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre, 1974. Cheap, dirty, and legendary. The Texas Chainsaw Massacre wasn't just horror. It was a full-on assault. Shot on a shoestring budget, it looked and felt like a real crime scene. Audiences didn't think it was based on true events. They thought it was one. The chainsaw wasn't even the worst part. It was the sweat, the screams, the grime. You could almost smell it. That's exactly why it got banned in over a dozen countries. Britain said nope. Germany said definitely nope. Even in the US, some theaters flat out refused to screen it. But horror fans, they chased it like forbidden fruit. Bootlegs flew, the cult grew, and a cheap indie film turned into one of the most iconic horror franchises ever. It didn't just scare people, it made them run. And that was only part one. We've seen the film that got its director arrested, the one that reignited the KKK and a Disney movie, so controversial. They pretend it never existed. But in part two, it gets even darker. Banned tapes, real death, government censorship, and a film so disturbing, even the director tried to erase it from history. Which one from today's list hit you the hardest? Let me know in the comments. I read every single one, and if you thought this was wild, just wait till you see what got buried on purpose. Hit like, subscribe, and ring the bell, because part two is coming, and it's going to mess you up.